Let's talk pitching. First of all, what I would define as a pitch shot is anything outside of 40 yards, okay? Certainly outside of 30 yards. 30 yards, 40 yards and in, so closer to you, I would class as a chip shot, because I just think there's so much variety with those types of shots that you can't sort of predetermine it. You're gonna have to react to what's happening. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, etc. yards until you go back into a full swing, you can kind of predetermine swing lengths and tempo, etc. Now, what I wanted to do in this video is just get a set of fundamentals and basics that we can all sort of agree on and abide by. And then, like I say, you can talk about different types of shots, spinning wedges, higher, lower wedges. But to become consistent at pitching, you have to do two things: good contact and good consistent trajectory. Okay, if you can do those two things, you can determine how hard you need to hit the ball. Golfers that struggle with wedges are obviously poor contact or poor trajectory control, one high, one low. So if you can follow the principles that I'm going to talk about in this video, you'll notice a massive difference. Now, the first thing that I think you need to understand is that when it comes to wedges, we are trying to use the bounce, right? Now, use the bounce basically means you're trying to return the club shaft pretty much as it started. And that basically means avoiding any shaft lean. The reason why you don't want any shaft lean is because the leading edge will dig too much in towards the floor. Right. Now, like so. So I don't want to be doing something like that. It'll either lower the trajectory or the club's going to dig. What we want to do is we just want to kind of allow the club head like that, just to glide underneath the back of the golf ball. The question really is, well, how do you do that? And the answer is, it's actually quite simple. But you do need to understand something in its swing plane. So if I drew a line through the heel of the club and up through my elbow line, swing plane exists for every shot that we hit. But on a wedge shot, because we're standing so much closer, what's going to happen is that my arms are going to stay very close into the side of my body. And therefore, for me to be able to keep the club on plane whilst doing that, it's going to produce a wrist position, which is going to be more, for me, extended than if I was going to hit a longer club where it would potentially flatten. Now, the reason why it's important is because if I keep my arms to the side of my body and then I flatten my wrist, can you see the way now the club will travel too far under plane? Now, that's not going to work with the pitch. You can't do enough rotation to recover that type of position. You don't really want that. It's complicating quite a simple shot. We just want to move the arms up and down to the side of the body along that plane. Okay, so that means my arms are going to the side of my body and to the side of my body. Now, that basically means if I can get the club moving up plane here and up plane here, that's going to produce an impact position which is going to look like this, where my wrist stays extended, like so and like so. Okay, so if you're struggling with pitching, the biggest likelihood is that what you're really struggling with is how to keep the club on plane when you're demonstrating a shorter shot, which is why I would strongly suggest that you practice that. Now, an easy way to practice this is to just use an alignment stick. Okay, so if I grab an alignment stick here, the disadvantage with the alignment stick is you have to place it underneath the shaft, which produces more shaft lean at address. But as long as you don't apply that technique normally, as I take it back, keep the alignment stick in contact with my lead hip, and then as I start it, get it back onto my lead hip, back on plane, and then I can swing through and it can follow my body. That basically is keeping the club on plane, which is going to produce a consistent swing, and it's also going to produce the ability to deliver the club utilizing the bounce. So therefore, if we're going to be kind of hitting the club with, should we say, more of a vertical shaft position, what we need to do is we need to change our setup ever so slightly just to make sure that we can get the club to strike the ground. And the way you're going to do that, I really like a lot of my students, open up your feet a little bit, always flare this lead foot, and then get your left hand to reach down towards your lead knee. So left hand down towards left knee, and it just reduces any potential tilt you have. So when we get set up and we hit shots, because our trail hand is lower, it'll tilt the shoulders. So you just want to feel like you're favouring the weight going into that lead leg. And the best way to do it is just get the feeling your belt buckles going down in towards your left ankle. And that will just neutralise any excessive tilt you might have in your shoulders, and it will produce a more horizontal shoulder position, which in turn can balance very nicely when we deliver the club more vertically to give us the best result when it comes to pitch shots. If we can swing the club on plane, that means we can use the bounce and we'll get consistency in terms of contact. If you make sure you've got a good posture position, you're going to enhance those chances of good contact. The last thing that you have to do is apply good width. Now, good width basically just means, if you like, sort of relatively straight arms from the side of the body to the side of the body. This is something that you can experiment with when it comes to spinning wedges, which again we'll keep for a separate video and a separate topic. But to get consistent wedge play, I always get a lot of my students just to feel like they're straight armed in the backswing and relatively straight armed in the through swing. Okay, so I think that's a really good thing to do because it means that you're going to likely produce consistent loft at the point of impact. Okay, but a lot of golfers that I meet tend to do things like pull their arms up and then compensate in other ways, which is what gives you that inconsistency in trajectory. If you can kind of keep those arms performing pretty straight on the way back and on the way through, you'll start to get consistent contact, consistent trajectory, and that's really the good thing when it comes to pitching. And it's a good thing with chipping as well, but particularly with pitching. If you can picture the trajectory and the type of shot you want to try and hit, the same as if you were to throw a ball, then you're going to have a chance of being good at pitching. People that I meet that are struggling is they pop one up and it goes half the distance, and then they catch another one a bit thinner and it goes flying over the back, and that's what you need to avoid when it comes to pitching. So understand swing plane, practice with your alignment stick. Change your posture position slightly so your belt buckle's slightly more down to the lead side so it neutralises the shoulders, and then just try and play around with stiff arms, dead arms in that golf swing. As you swing the club back and through towards the side of you, will give you a consistent ability to return the same loft each time, which in turn will lend itself to consistent trajectory and distance control. And we can start to evolve it from there. See you soon.